See this? 350 rejection letters. Todd McFarlane's entire rejection pile. He mailed out 700 sample artwork packets to Marvel and DC Comics in the mid-1980s and got more than half of them back, stamped. He pinned every single rejection letter right above his drawing board as nightly fuel to become a better artist. 3 decades later, Todd owns a Guinness World Record for the longest-running creator-owned superhero comic, started Image Comics, the biggest independent comic book publisher of all time, launched a toy company that revolutionized action figures for the 21st century, and most importantly, turned Spawn, the character he created at 16, into a global multimedia empire. So how do you flip a wall rejection to becoming an international creative powerhouse? Smash that like button, strap in, and let's crack open the Toddfather's Creative Mastermind Playbook. First question for you. What was your gateway McFarlane moment? Was it his Hulk vs. Wolverine cover, immortalized in Deadpool vs. Wolverine? Maybe it was the first appearance of Spider-Man's greatest frenemy, Venom, in Amazing Spider-Man number 299. Or maybe it was the 1997 Spawn movie with more CGI cape than plot. Tell me in the comments below. Todd's story began in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, but a baseball scholarship carried him to Eastern Washington University until a freak ankle snap ended his pro ball dream. With tuition bills and rent looming, Todd took the night janitor shift and weekends at a comic shop and spent his daytime penciling pages. These sample pages went everywhere. DC, Marvel, First, Eclipse, Comico, anybody with an address in the comics buyer's guide. But the rejections, way back.
One eternity later.
Finally, his samples hit the desk of Marvel writer Steve Englehart, who saw promise and hired him in 1985 for a backup story in Coyote number 11. That led straight into DC's Infinity Inc., where McFarlane drew some crazy pages of the Junior Justice Society team for the princely sum of $35 a page, and still cleaned lecture halls between deadlines. He worked on Batman Year 2, where his stylistic crazy Whiplash cape debuted before he got the call from a certain gamma-powered monster in purple pants from across the street. The Marvel doors opened in 1987 with Incredible Hulk number 330. Paired with writer and soon-to-be arch-nemesis Peter David, McFarlane packed a mix of his style with super popular 80s artists Michael Golden and Arthur Adams onto every panel, but on a monthly basis. From his logo-breaking cover for Hulk 345 to one of the most iconic covers of all time, where the Hulk's reflection beams from Wolverine's adamantium claws on Hulk 340. Then, in 1988, he got the call and literally leapt to lead artist on The Amazing Spider-Man, the Marvel crown jewel. He quickly brought his signature style to the series, co-creating Venom, bulging Spidey's eyes 10 times the size they had been drawn before, and giving him poses that aren't anatomically possible, and webbing that looked like spaghetti. But the fans absolutely loved it. I wasn't doing it because I thought I was better. I needed to stand out in a sea of people doing the exact same job. So I started doing funky, fun stuff on Spider-Man, and the fans, they liked it. His popularity went nuclear, so editor Jim Salicrup offered a creator-controlled title. Todd decided this was his chance to do it all. And so he wrote, penciled, and inked Spider-Man number 1, released in August 1990. This history-defining first issue shipped more than 2.5 million copies over 8 cover variants, all with the same artwork, just with different colors and innovative printing techniques applied, like silver ink, which had never been done in comic books before. Spider-Man number 1 not only sports one of the most iconic and imitated covers in comics, but it also brought a rise to the multiple covers trend that exists to this day and was a watershed moment in the commoditization of new comics. The original art for the cover sold at auction in 2012 for over $350,000. That's more than a PSA 10 Michael Jordan rookie card. But after 16 issues on adjectiveless Spider-Man, Todd quit. When people retell the story, they usually stop at the infamous sword through Juggernaut's eye that the new editorial ordered Todd to redraw in Spider-Man number 16. That censorship really was the last straw. but it sat on top of a stack of frustrations that had been building since late 1990. Marvel was minting money on t-shirts, posters, and toy art featuring Todd's Spidey poses. But the work-for-hire contracts meant he saw none of it. He complained he was not paid when his art was reused for merchandise such as t-shirts. Even with comic royalties pushing his annual income about $1 million a year, he viewed that as pocket change compared with what the company cleared. McFarlane had taken the solo Spider-Man title precisely so he could write as well as draw. When the new editorial team began redlining his scripts and panels, the job no longer delivered the creative control he'd been promised. Todd realized the only real promotion waiting for him was less freedom, not more. Could you walk away from corporate comfort for total ownership? Yes or no? Leave a comment below and we'll discuss. Todd's last Marvel credit is Spider-Man number 16, the sideways landscape crossover of X-Force. It was cover dated November 1991. 5 months later, on February 3rd, 1992, Todd, Jim Lee, Rob Liefeld, and 4 more superstar artists walked off the Marvel lot and birthed Image Comics, a new house where creators kept ownership, merchandise, and media rights, and where Todd would launch Spawn, and at last own every panel he put on paper. Spawn is the story of Al Simmons, the CIA's best of the best, until his own boss had him burned alive. One deal with the demon Malbolgia later, Simmons rockets back to Earth as Spawn, a hell soldier wrapped in living, shape-shifting necroplasm that gives him superpowers. Spawn number 1 arrived in May 1992. Every interview Todd did hammered the mantra, no corporate suits, just artists in charge, into the proof of concept that Image Comics could outsell the big two on sheer fan loyalty. Todd penciled, inked, and wrote the first 15 issues himself, but deadlines chewed him up. So starting with issue 16, he began drafting a murderer's row of young guns. Artists like Greg Capullo, Tony Daniel, Ashley Wood, Philip Tan. By the spring of 1994, McFarlane had swapped Bristol board for plastic molds. He launched Todd Toys, quickly renamed McFarlane Toys, on a simple bet. If you put $7 of value into a $7 toy, collectors will happily pay for it. The first Spawn wave moved 2.2 million units in just 3 months. And by 1999, the company had sold over 6 million action figures, vaulting the company into the US top 5 alongside Hasbro and Mattel. That remains the undisputed peak year for Spawn branded plastic.
Spawn is America's #1 comic book thanks to you. So I started this company to make the toys that you asked for.
Spawn, Violator.
I hear the competition's flying around. They could be any place.
They're cool, awesome.
Tremor, Overkill, Medieval Spawn, the
And
Clown.
they come with comics.
Nice toys, kids.
Nice try, guys.
Spawn, each sold separately from Irwin.
McFarlane Toys did what no $7 toy line had ever tried, shipping 4 complete ultra action assortments, multiple box sets, vehicles, dioramas, and even pewter convention minifigures. The line created modern chase variant culture and proved one IP could support standard figures, mega-scale monsters, vehicles, dioramas, and prestige collectibles all at once. By the time Mandarin Spawn headlined Series 6 in 1997, retailers were conditioned to expect something exotic every quarter, setting the cadence that pushed the brand well beyond 30 numbered series by the early 2000s. Part of the 160-plus unique Spawn figures tracked by collectors today. McFarlane didn't just make cooler toys, he reset the ceiling on what collector detail meant at mass retail. On the side of all this, Hollywood noticed. HBO worked with Todd to create Todd McFarlane's Spawn, which ran 3 noir seasons on the premium channel from 1997 to 1999 and won the 1999 Primetime Emmy for Outstanding Animated Program and will cement Keith David as the iconic voice of Spawn for millions of millennials. Meanwhile, the 1997 live-action Spawn movie, budgeted at $40 million, pulled over $100 million worldwide. Not an MCU-sized hit, but a 90s proof of concept that a creator-owned hero could headline summer cinemas. He was beaten by Air Force One, starring Harrison Ford. It's not a great movie, but I liked it. But sometimes, having a so-so movie made of your property is not always the best thing. especially if you have little involvement with it other than having a glorified cameo. Yes, that's Todd in a dumpster as Todd the Bum. Spawn's second win hit like a grenade in October 2019 when issue number 301 nudged past Dave Sim's Cerebus run and earned Todd McFarlane a Guinness World Record for the longest-running creator-owned superhero comic. McFarlane accepted the certificate on stage at New York Comic-Con with a promise that this is not the end, only the warm-up. He proved it 6 months later. The classic Spawn Kickstarter asked fans for $100,000 and rocketed to $3.45 million for more than 23,000 backers. Still, the biggest toy campaign in the platform's history. Deluxe chains, alternate heads, and a redrawn mini-comic set new collector expectations. 90 days later, free molds, viral marketing, and undeniable data to wave at Walmart and Target showed everyone that Spawn nostalgia converts directly into cash. With momentum secured, he spilled it straight back into the comic book racks. Todd felt one Spawn book a month left money and cultural mindshare on the table. Batman had a title every Wednesday, so why not Al Simmons? The fix? Create a weekly shipping shared universe. Spawn's Universe #1 clocked in well over 200,000 copies ordered, while King Spawn #1 smashed the modern indie record at 497,000 pre-orders, followed by six-figure launches for Gunslinger Spawn and The Scorched. At the same time, McFarlane Toys locked down the DC Multiverse Master Toy license in January 2020, unleashing 400-plus SKUs that routinely top Amazon's action figure charts and keep Spawn's engineering tricks in front of a whole new audience. Todd has checked almost every creative career box but one. The White Whale remains, a Spawn movie that's 100% his, on his terms, with no studio watering down, and is like Seven with a cape. So is the movie his final Everest? He says yes. Everything else I can do with a pen or sculpt. Film is the one medium Spawn still hasn't conquered. If King Spawn rolls cameras soon, McFarlane will have completed the last square in his vertical integration hopscotch. Comics, toys, TV, video games, cinema. After that, any new milestone, digital worlds, AI animated series, whatever comes next will be gravy, not unfinished business. I've never invented anything original. I just take what I've seen and make it sexier and cooler. That's the whole recipe. Todd McFarlane's creative engine runs on a mix of old school hustle and new school hardware. In the 90s, he swore by a Hunt 102 Crow Quill, a Winsor Newton Series 7 brush, and Higgins Black Magic ink. Today, a 27-inch Wacom Cintiq Pro dominates his Phoenix, Arizona studio. He still blocks every page in blue pencil on copy paper. Thumbnailing keeps the spontaneity. He then photographs the roughs, drops them into Clip Studio on the Cintiq, and tightens lines on a single 4,000 pixel layer. Digital ink lets him experiment with cape physics and chain trajectories without burning through Bristol. But he prints the finals at 11x17, tapes them to a wall, and steps back 10 feet. If the silhouette doesn't read instantly, he redraws it. His morning routine is monk simple. 5:30 a.m. gym, 6:30 coffee, 7 a.m. emails cleared, pencils down by 7:30. He works in 55-minute sprints, broken by 5-minute walkarounds, finishing 5 or 6 cycles before lunch. Afternoons are reserved for toy approvals, film calls, and mentoring sessions with junior artists. In portfolio reviews, he flips straight past pinups and hunts for storytelling. I don't care how pretty your Venom looks. Show me you can move a camera from panel 1 to panel 6. If a newcomer nails clarity and deadlines, he parachutes them onto short backups. 4 pages of King Spawn here, a flashback in Gunslinger Spawn there, and pairs them with a seasoned inker so they absorb McFarlane-style blacks without losing their own line. Laying out a Spawn script starts with a 1-sentence spine. Al Simmons tries to save 1 soul and loses 3. That's scribbled down at the top of a yellow legal pad. Todd then drops 8 tent poles and sketches stick figure beats to guarantee that each left-hand page ends on a mini cliffhanger. Dialogue is last, written directly in Clip Studio balloons the night before files have to go to Image's production team. He rarely takes creative retreats, preferring the short burst discipline of daily pages. But he does a twice-yearly idea dump. 48 hours in a hotel with a laptop, unplugged, phone off, hammering out lists and villains, toy variants, and crossover hooks. From Venom to Spawn, what does Todd think about creating characters and a brand that endure for decades? Todd's answer is persistence over perfection. Design a premise with no planned finale, then keep it in front of people until it becomes a cultural wallpaper. When Hollywood executives ask how Spawn ends, he pushes back. Superman, Batman, and Spider-Man don't have end dates, so why should a new IP? Endurance comes from attrition, publishing new issues even in slow years, splashing the logo on toys, TV screens, or even a blood-splattered funny car. Anything that forces someone to stare at the name for 5 extra seconds. Each exposure recruits a different micro-audience who may dip in for 5 years and drop out, but they're still part of a 30-year aggregate army you can tap when the next movie or game arrives. The creative machinery must run through highs and lows. The value isn't today's issue or SKU, but the compounding recognition that builds when you just keep going again and again, until the world knows the character's name, whether they buy it or not. For someone like Todd, who do you think his biggest inspiration is? Inspirationally, no one outranks Stan Lee. Todd quotes Stan's 20-second rule. Make each fan feel like the only fan for 20 seconds. He's also internalized Lee's habit of giving characters a visual hook plus a moral flaw. On the craft side, he still rereads Jim Shooter's Marvel-style plot memos for pacing tricks, and he keeps Joseph Campbell's Hero with 1,000 Faces on the shelf to remind him why Simmons' Eternal Bargain still resonates after 30 years. How does Todd balance being creative and running a company? Todd says the only way to keep both the art brain and the CEO brain is to recognize and respect his personal 5-ball limit. He can juggle exactly 5 major commitments at a time. The moment a tempting new opportunity appears, one of the existing balls must be handed off or set down before he picks up the 6th, or else everything crashes. That discipline forces him to delegate. He scouts Michael Jordans and Scottie Pippens in every field: artists, sculptors, marketers, engineers. Then he steps back and coaches instead of trying to shoot every basket himself. The payoff is twofold. He preserves protected blocks for pure drawing and story building, and his companies run on the horsepower of people whose skills outstrip his own. All right, here we go. It's what you've been waiting for. You know who woke up on the planet today with 8 billion people and said, I'm going to make Todd's life better today? There was only one human being, one, and that was me. From 350 rejection letters to Guinness records, million-dollar art sales, and a toy empire that hijacks every toy e-commerce site, what have we actually learned from Todd McFarlane's wild ride? Strip away the capes and chains, and Todd's left you with a repeatable operating system. This is the Todd McFarlane Creative Mastermind Playbook. Number 1, out-hustle everyone with relentless iteration. Each rejection letter contained one fixable flaw. He trimmed 20 mistakes down to 6 and finally got hired 3 weeks before graduation. Persistence plus small, continuous improvements beat raw talent left unrefined. Number 2, own the sandbox or leave the park. If you don't keep the copyright, the merchandise rights, and final cut, you're renting your genius. Todd walked out on Marvel at peak spider mania because he'd rather rule Spawn outright than polish someone else's logo. Hopscotch every win upward. Number 3, every hit funds the next medium. Spawn number 1 profits bankrolled McFarlane Toys. Toy cash flow kept the HBO cartoon afloat. Today, the toy factory finances film development and digital collectibles. Todd has said his original foundation corners outside comics were video games, TV, movies, and toys. Then he set out to plant Spawn in all 4. Number 4, small tests to big scale. He never tools up a factory run until the market proves it'll bite. The 2020 Spawn Kickstarter asked for $100,000 and landed $3.4 million. It then birthed an entire retail Spawn line 6 months later. 2024's Medieval Spawn Kickstarter broke $1 million in 5 hours, greenlighting a full Medieval shelf wave before the campaign even closed. And number 5, frame every launch as David versus Goliath and sling the stone yourself. Cast the project as creator freedom, challenging corporate gatekeepers. Audiences crave an underdog, especially when the underdog swings hard, owns the outcome, and invites them to join the revolution. Lock those 5 rules into your own workflow. Own, leap, overdeliver, diversify, and battle big. And you're not just shipping products, you're scripting your own legend. And if all else fails, remember,
Armor and armament.
One thing that I think the kids also like is why don't we come in with the kids like change.
sound off in the comments your favorite Todd McFarlane work. Smash that like and subscribe button for more creative playbook deep dives. And remember, every rejection letter is just free wallpaper until you turn it into a yes.
And on this brainy show, somebody's holding up a comic book trade. I went, whoa, comic books. And then it got better. The page they were holding up was from the Uncanny X-Men. The guy holding it is John Byrne, the artist. And then he says the magic words. I live here in Calgary. The guy who draws the best-selling comic book lived in the same city I did as a Canadian kid. That was the moment. I went, wow, if he can live in Calgary, then it's doable. And I put my head down. That was it.